Why are we looking
Cut
at
that.
this?
Wait, I forgot we're recording. Cut that out.
Why? All right, I'll let them calm
All right,
down.
start
Why
now.
are we looking at this? What? We did this. This is the last episode.
You were right. This is the same tier list that we have looked at in the last 2 episodes of the Shootaround, and I think it's because right now we just need to correct one thing, because Wembanyama is out for the rest of the season, and the Spurs got to go down to less than a 1% chance as a result. And also, I wanted to give us the opportunity to correct our final list before the close of the tier list era.
Sorry, are you telling me you don't believe in De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes to
Absolutely
take
not.
the Spurs to a championship?
Not a lick.
Did they take the Kings to a championship?
Hello, and welcome to the Shootaround, everybody. I am formerly a host of this podcast, Rudy St. Clair. Joining me, as is tradition, below me is the one and only Jacob R.R. Buckets,
No
as well
one's
as...
below you on my screen.
Oh yeah, I'm on the bottom. So above me is the best
lost.
baseball player I know, Nick, aka Motown, Noah, and the one and only, legendary, the absolute legend, Alex motherfucking Hoops. Fellas, we are a podcast,
You
and
didn't
this is
say
a tier
my
list.
fucking name.
Yes, I did.
Say,
I just said you were below me and moved on.
They both get these cool intros, and you're like, and Jacob's here.
Yeah, you're Jacob RR, aka Rusty Buckets,
Okay.
aka
You know
Little
what I was
Rusty
thinking
Buckets.
I was thinking about a lost episode of the Shootaround. I don't think we ever aired it. And I don't remember anything that happened in the episode except at the end of it. I spent the last 15 minutes trying to conspicuously piss into a bottle, and I succeeded. And then we ended the show, and it never aired. And I could not help but for like 2 months wonder if it was because of my little stunt that I pulled at the end.
No, that's great. That's funny.
Yeah, no, I think I was just like a week behind on editing and releasing that one for one reason or another. And then I learned that you pissed in the bottle, and I was like, well, I wasn't checking for Nick's penis in the video.
Well, it would be on screen. Well,
was not
I
on
mean,
the
I don't
screen.
know what he's
It was
packing.
not.
It might have been.
No.
Who knows?
That was not on the
Takes up
screen.
most of the screen. Just like this tier list. Any other edits that we want to make before we move on to the remainder of the podcast and talk about Wemby being out and what that means and whatever else is on the docket for the day? Jacob says no.
Okay.
Alex, do you vote no, or do you have a suggestion?
Lakers. They just lost to the Jazz and the Hornets.
Luka hasn't looked even a little bit like Luka thus far, so I'm not going to change my mind off of just that.
Well, so I don't necessarily disagree. I think that is a factor. Counterpoint, there's like 30 games left.
Counterpoint, if he's playing like Luka, they're still in potential contender categories, even if the rest of it still is kind of weird.
Counterpoint, Jackson Hayes.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's actually been fine, but whatever.
Look, he can catch lobs. That's all. That's most of the job description for starting center of the Lakers right now. So he's got most of it covered. He's just not a great defensive player.
Did we have the Mark Williams stuff on the docket? Okay,
Perhaps.
I won't talk about
Look,
it.
I will say this about Jackson Hayes. I feel like the guy who's just athletic and that's all that he brings to the table is disappearing from the NBA. So I almost feel a novelty when he's in the game. I'm like, this guy's not good at basketball, but he is tall and he can jump.
It's the last of a dying breed.
Yeah.
He's a dodo.
Hmm.
Well, I guess
So Mark Williams.
What's an animal that's about to go extinct? Like
The white rhino. The white rhino.
Really?
There are 2 left, and they are guarded 24/7. They're both female.
So who's the other Jackson Hayes? Who's the other white?
Clint Capella.
Yeah.
Clint Capella. Nah, Clint Capella is a pretty good defender. He's like smart on defense.
It's got like institutional knowledge and positional awareness, I guess.
Mark Williams.
No.
Am I being I don't know what the word here. I don't think I'm being fair when I throw this name out there in terms of guys who are athletic and jump really high and dunk really hard, and that's kind of all that they do. Because this guy also plays defense. What about Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, Aaron Gordon's really good at attacking mismatches. He dribbles pretty well, pretty good
Yeah,
playmaker.
okay, yeah.
Like he's got a little bit too much ability to be in that category. Because I don't think you can be a starting level NBA player unless there's no other option in the case of Jackson Hayes, while being just an athlete, more or less.
Extinction talks aside, do we want to move the Lakers down? Because they have looked pretty bad. That's actually one of the points on the docket today is just like Lakers talk, so we can get the Mark Williams and Lakers stuff out of the way before we move on to Wemby being out for the year.
I wouldn't move the Lakers down, but you guys can make that decision. That's my vote.
I feel like based on their last 2 performances, it's fun and clickbaity, but maybe we're not the type of podcast.
Are we doing that? Are we being that type of podcast where like they played 2 games against bad teams and lost? That means their next
I don't know,
30 games are over with.
We only put them up there because they beat the Jazz the first time, and so if we can be reactionary,
not really. Even if they lost that game, there's not anything from that game where I was like, oh, this shit's serious, because he played bad in that one, he played bad in the next one, and he played bad in the next one. That's enough games where it's like, okay, I am looking at you sideways, but I'm not making new predictions based on it.
Yeah,
wouldn't it be fucking crazy if Nico Harrison is just fully right and Luka's just cooked and he's done and he's terrible for the rest of his career?
I think I would never watch again if we all had to eat crow on that take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we had to ignore,
Here's
I would
the thing.
give up.
The positive of it is like, it's like when everyone in the class fails the test. Like if every single person said this was stupid, so no one's going to be like, you didn't open your third eye.
Yeah, but then there's going to be people who are like, well, no, I actually aced the test,
the
but
whole
nobody
time.
saw. Right.
Yeah.
No, but then, okay, so here's the thing. There's 30 games left, and yeah, Luka has been bad in like the first 3 that he's played with the Lakers. Oh, okay. Dog, if he is Luka that we know him to be for the last 5 games of the season, we're going to put them right back up in potential contender. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. He could suck for 90% of the rest of the way. Yeah, like the seeding would hurt them, and you don't want them to fall into the play-in, and yada, yada, yada. But even if that did happen, they still have... LeBron's been playing out of his mind for a month now. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with Jacob here and leave them in potential contenders, because that's not saying that they're going to... You know what I mean? They're not true contenders. It's just like, yeah, they have 2 of the best players in the world on their team, and that's it. And Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves.
To me, they're in the potential contender category for the same reason the Bucks and the Nuggets are. They have one of the top 3 guys in the NBA when everybody's healthy.
I think the Grizzlies have a case to be moved up. Okay.
Do you think I overreacted? Because I can get behind that. It feels weird having the Lakers,
I do feel
above
like
the
they are a
Grizzlies.
tier above the Rockets and the Clippers, so I'm okay
The
with
Rockets
that.
have struggled lately. And also, the Rockets are like, their style of play is
Their
very
half-court
not
offense
playoff
is
friendly.
too bad.
I got an email from a guy who was asking if the Grizzlies are the championship year. Was it 2018 or 2019? That iteration of the Raptors, is that this Grizzlies team? And my first thought was, well, the Raptors didn't just randomly give players away for like future flexibility the year that they won a championship like the Grizzlies just did. And so for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to
I don't
convince
know.
you
That's a
last week,
different
Nick.
landscape of the league. I wouldn't compare them to the 2019 Raptors because they're a dramatically different team.
Right.
But
Like
the
roster-wise.
2019
Like a top 10 player like Kawhi, which
top-
top 5, honestly.
Kawhi was a top 1 player that
yeah.
playoff run, at least.
my vote is going to be to move the Suns
Nope.
up. I think when I bumped them down, it felt weird.
Why?
It's like if we can talk about
Why? What have they done?
they got
Other
they
than
got a
have
championship
Kevin Durant
coach.
on the roster,
Kevin Durant, Devin
who's
Booker.
like the 10th best player in the NBA,
The Suns are
and
the
Devin
11th
Booker, who's like the 20th because he's fallen off this year, Bradley Beal, who sucks, a bench of nothing. There's like 3 other NBA players on the team after the 3 guys who are making 50+ mil every year. Don't.
All right, it appears that I'm
Absolutely not.
overruled.
I would
I
move
think
the
we- I think
Orlando. I
we
would move
need,
the
like-
Pacers and Magic up before I moved the fucking Suns.
We have 4 words to sum this all up. They're the 11th seed.
Yes, they're not even in
They're
the
the 11th
play-in
seed.
conversation. We're talking about dark horse contenders. Give me a fucking break.
Did you guys see the quote from KD where he was like, I didn't nix the Golden State trade because I didn't want to re-team up with them. He's like, I did it because I didn't want to get traded in the middle of the season. Do you believe that?
Well, he experienced it last time. Like, he actually got to see what that's like.
But that
Maybe he just hated that. Maybe he was just like, this middle of the season move is a pain in the ass, and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
But
Kevin
him
Durant
saying
a
that is
fantasy
also
football.
like, don't get me like, yeah, trade me in the off season. Just I don't want to move right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still team like I don't want to open this can of worms again, but just for the record, I think if the Oklahoma City thing doesn't happen, then I don't care where he goes. Unless
I
it's
agree.
Houston. For the love of God, don't let that happen.
Nick, do you have anyone to nominate to move up or down this list before we finalize our tier list for the season?
I'm prepping mentally for a 4 or 5 seed matchup between Detroit and Indiana. So I would like to move Indiana to minus a 0.1% chance, but that's just me being on my hater shit.
Yeah.
So no, otherwise it looks completely fine.
All right. And with that, that was the last tier list of the year. Let's talk about Wembanyama being out. Does this impact our Western Conference expectations? In the
You know
grand
where
scheme
my
of
head
things?
went?
Is it one team, less team to fear?
Where my head went immediately is those fuckers are going to get Cooper flag.
I don't
Probably.
Can you
No.
imagine trying to score on a Cooper flag, Victor Wembanyama front court or back? I always flip them, but yeah, the bigs.
I don't think Cooper's going to play the 4. I'd be
I mean,
shocked.
he will play the 4, whether that is his starting position. He might be a 3 most of the time.
Yeah.
But he's like a great rim protector. So, like, he can play the 4.
Whoa. Wait a second. Hold on. Is Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets, getting into like legit pre-draft content? Are you scouting guys?
I know the top 2-3 guys every year, and that's as far as it goes.
Okay.
I have seen enough Cooper flag tape. I've seen enough box scores. I know he can defend the rim pretty well. I think he could play the 4 if he wants to. But that aside, just defensively, the terror of the Spurs are going to lead the league in blocks immediately and will for the next decade.
Well, and steals too with De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I mean, up there. Yeah, for sure. But, like, I think Cooper could be, like, a 1.5 to 2 block per game guy, while Victor is a 3 block per game guy.
Did you guys see I don't know if I was getting
1.2
like
at Duke.
Ballsack Sports on this, but there was the quote that came out where Cooper was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind coming back to Duke for a second year. And I
He did say it.
personally,
It's not happening.
I encourage that behavior, not because I don't want him to, go to this team or that team. I encourage that behavior because I think he's too likable. And as a Duke guy, we haven't had that real punchable villain in a long time. I guess Filipowski, everybody hated Filipowski. Like Grayson Allen was probably the last one. That was damn near 10 years ago, right? So I think if he stayed for one more year, we would have enough time to really sink our teeth into like, I hate this guy, but also I don't really want to hate him. So it's kind of like the juxtaposition of that.
I feel like the only... This is going to make me sound a certain way, but I feel like only the white players at Duke really get hated on like that.
Yeah, people didn't have a problem with Zion. Where
Or
did Grant Hill
RJ,
go?
or Cam Reddish. Did
Nah,
Grant Hill
people
go to
weren't very
Duke?
nice to Cam Reddish, but that wasn't because of anything.
It was
other
just
than the
because
fact that
he
kinda-
wasn't good.
He wasn't that good. Yeah, that's all that
Brandon
was.
Ingram was Duke, right?
No, he was. Oh no, yeah, you're right. He was. He and him and
And
Jason
Kyrie
Tatum were.
wasn't Kyrie Duke?
Kyrie Irving was also Duke. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Didn't he only
Grayson
play 20 games in
Allen,
college?
JJ
I'm not saying
Redick-
people didn't like those guys. I have no idea. I don't
Yeah,
care
yeah,
about college
yeah.
sports at all.
But Grayson Allen, JJ Redick,
Leitner.
Leitner, that's it.
They hate. Yeah, I mean, come to Kentucky. I tell you what, they hate Christian Leitner.
Was it Kentucky that he hit that shot in the tournament on? That was Kentucky, right? Yeah. Okay.
I've seen people talk about Christian Leitner like they're like, I considered hiring a hitman. Like, that's how much I hate this man.
Yeah, sneaky like guy that you forget was on the dream team.
Yeah,
He's a Hall of Famer, isn't he?
He's the
Yeah,
college.
yeah.
He's the college insert that
Yeah.
they did? I don't feel like they
They don't
kept
do
that
it
tradition
anymore.
up. That's whack.
No, but Cooper Flagg was on the reserve team that got to
Right.
play against the
Right.
team this year, and there were no cameras in the gym, but apparently he like killed everyone.
Maybe you're referring to something else, but there's definitely clips. I've seen the footage of him cooking against.
I remember
Team
there
USA.
was an anecdote that came out. I don't remember who it was, but they were like Cooper Flagg. Yeah, I guess it's been too long. I don't really remember. I have a thing about was it Court of Gold? I want to do a spiel on that at some point in this episode, but I want to get us back on the road here with the Victor Wembanyama thing. So everybody's comparing it to Chris Bosh, but all of the communication on it early on, we're taping this for those of you at home. The time that you're listening to this, some more information may have come out. The news broke like 2 hours ago about the whole Victor Wembanyama thing. So we don't know that much right now. It sounds like it is an isolated incident, though. Also, I don't know. None of us are doctors. I don't know medically how it's not the same, but everything I've read so far is that it's not the same as Chris Bosh. Brandon Ingram very similarly had like a blood clot in his shoulder. He ended up being okay.
Didn't
Asar
Asar?
Thompson.
Yeah.
Asar Thompson ended up being okay. Took him a while, but he ended up being fine from the blood clots. LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, also had one, but he also had like a heart condition, and by the time he came back, he was 35, and he fucking sucked, and he had no lift at all. Trying to think of there's a Coloco. Who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had one
Coloco.
too. So it's not that well, it is pretty uncommon. I've only named like 4 guys, but he should be fine. It's just
I believe my understanding is it's like a catching it early type of thing. Like the later it's found, the more concerning it is, and like the Chris Bosh thing was later, and and in a more severe location.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with where it's at, and like, can it be surgically operated to be relieved? Like Brandon Ingram in 2019 had surgery and it got rid of it. Like, he was fine. I think Wemby's is in a similar location. I don't know if it's able to be treated through the exact same surgery because Brandon Ingram's was like a thoracic pressure relief surgery or something like that, and that cleared it right up. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Wemby, but the fact that it's not in his legs, I think, is an important factor here. I believe Chris Bosh's were in his legs, which is like not good.
is Ozempic a blood thinner?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm not a
Because I was
doctor.
like, maybe he should just start
don't
hammering
think
that.
so.
But then I was like, can you imagine if Victor Wembanyama started taking Ozempic? His body would get sucked up like a nematode drinking SpongeBob's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he would turn into freaking. Can you imagine? Victor Wembanyama.
He'd look like a fully drank Capri Sun.
Right. When you squeeze it and get all the little
Yeah.
juices out of it at the end.
Yeah, you want to do that
Yeah,
again?
it's the best.
As I did it, I looked at myself in the monitor and I was like, fuck.
Clip that.
Yeah. If you're gonna clip it, let's make sure it's composed well. I just noticed that Jacob and Alex are kind of angled where they're back to back. Now they're face to face. For
Oh.
those listening at home, I just swapped them on the screen. But hey, come enjoy the visual. No, don't recreate that picture you guys have together.
Is there a take here in that I didn't watch the All-Star game because I'm an adult and I had better things to do, but everything that I read indicated that Victor Wembanyama was one of the only players who was actually trying. Is it too early to make the joke that as a consequence of trying in the All-Star game, maybe this is why people all along
I think you're
haven't
nailing
done
it. That's the
Try in
take.
the All-Star game, get blood clots.
You get blood
That's-
clots. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Victor
makes sense.
Wembanyama gets instant karma for being a tryhard.
And since we're on the subject of like medical, like what the fucks of the week, there's a segment, new segment idea, medical what the fucks of the week. Hey, this LeVar Ball thing? You guys got anything on
Dog,
that?
That's
What
crazy.
What the
What you talking
hell?
He got his.
You guys-
they cut his foot off.
He has
He got his foot amputated.
He
And it's
diabetic?
all
That's what
okay,
I'm
right?
wondering. Is
All we know is that it was a serious medical condition. It has not been disclosed as of this taping whether or not it was diabetes. I think that is kind of the. But so my brain went to like I don't
I haven't
even
heard
think
of
this
this at all.
this happened-
You
this was
guys
like-
just broke to me that he is he is one-footed man.
I think it was
it's
his-
just
his
completely out
right
of
foot is-
nowhere.
It's gone. So I don't even have any jokes for this because I don't think it's that funny because I'm thinking about
Yeah.
the kids, right? Where, dude, remember when their mom had I think it was a stroke, like a super, super severe stroke, like 10 years ago? And so I'm like, Jesus, these kids have been through, thank God they're all successful and they have the, I don't know, the money to help their parents. But like, Jesus Christ, yeah, LeVar Ball. Go ahead, Jacob, look it up. We're not bullshitting you.
That'd be a crazy bit just to gaslight Jacob into thinking that somebody got their foot cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it was so specific.
Lie.
I'm like, well, then it did happen. That's just too. You wouldn't make that up.
No, because dude, every now and then, like, some bullshit will happen and people will email me and be like, can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, like, excited to laugh. And I got 2 emails from people being like, can't wait to see what you have to say about LeVar Ball. I'm like, this isn't funny. I don't think this is funny. Like,
I'm not laughing at that.
No,
I'm laughing at
it.
the idea of someone being like, I cannot wait to hear my favorite comedian, Nick, talk about this and joke about it.
No material. Give it 6 months. I'll have something. But
the
right now,
situation
no.
itself, the medical emergency isn't funny, but just out of the blue being like, did you hear LeVar Ball got his foot cut off?
It's like a Mad Lib.
It's like a Mad Lib. Very what the fuck did you just say? Who the fuck starts a conversation like that?
Talk about swerving and bending around corners. That guy's going to fucking...
There it is. There it is.
Okay, so it is. Okay, all right. Okay.
I was trying to make the connection.
Jeselnik.
Yeah.
No,
I know a guy who works for Jeselnik. I don't want to get too off the road here. And so he has to edit a bunch of his short form content. And all that Jeselnik has turned into at this point is a guy who like is like so anti-cancellation and like hates woke culture. And I'm thinking about it.
You have that backwards, brother. You have that so bad. Yes, you do.
No, I do not.
He just released a stand-up special where all he did was complain about people complaining about cancel culture. I think you've got that completely backwards.
I feel confident in my assertion.
I feel more confident that your assertion is wrong.
I don't believe it's. I believe that there are layers of irony to him that are impossible to unearth.
I think that's possible. I also have gotten the impression that he's like the anti-Joe Rogan sphere.
Yeah, that's all I've heard from him, is that he's like, stop complaining about getting canceled.
Every YouTube short that I see would indicate the opposite, and that's why I have not watched the special. So maybe if I watch the special, you'll be right, but I'm good. I don't.
It's like the one time that he took a break from just doing the one-liner shtick that he does, where he's like, okay, I'm going to complain about something for a while. And it was that. Like, he could not have been more anti exactly what you're talking about.
Maybe geniusly, the marketing is to use the removal of context to make it look one way, and then you get into the special and it's the opposite.
Yeah,
but then the approval of that just kind of plummets, and then you sort of invite a... Yeah, Victor Wembanyama being out for a while, troll. I think is going to be a bit of a consequence for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Or is it?
No. What's up on the docket after that? We didn't talk about Mark Williams at all, but that's awkward. That's basically all I got on that.
Dalton Connect was pissed off.
I don't understand the finger pointing that's happening right now. Like, there's too much information that's coming out about like, well, no, he failed the physical. Well, there's no way that he failed the physical. And so who wanted to... I guess I'm confused on like what the timeline of events here is and who's lying about what. Like, did the Lakers nix this so that they realized at the 11th hour that it was a bad deal and that they wanted to keep the assets for it and roll them back into the summer? I just don't understand what's going on with it. I know LeBron yammed on him, but I don't understand who I'm supposed to be mad at here.
I mean, my guess is he failed the physical, and that's pretty much the end of it.
And he just got that bad hip.
I have a theory. I think he did fail the physical, but his agent released a statement saying that he didn't fail the physical. This keeps Mark Williams' value on an open market intact, and the Lakers cannot refute it because it would be a HIPAA violation.
Would it?
Yeah.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
You can't speak on a player's medical history if they don't give you permission. That would absolutely be a HIPAA violation.
Are NBA players protected
how long
by
are we
HIPAA?
gonna
They
have
have
that?
to be.
Is HIPAA still here? Have we nixed that executive
My
order?
understanding is that it's still around.
I don't know. We don't have
gotten lost in the shuffle.
All the acronyms are just getting killed left and right. So I don't know. All the organizations for like the cancer research and health and living. They're like, none of that.
Right.
We don't do that around here. Death for everyone.
I feel like somewhere in like the collective bargaining of it all, the players' union is probably like, yeah, you could talk about our injuries, but maybe if physical's results or like the details of a physical don't qualify, because like we know about players' physical health all the time.
I feel like that
All the
only
time.
really makes sense if it's someone who's like officially a part of your roster. Because there's more of a conflict when it's, someone who you're trying to make not be on your roster.
I think we should start looking at the NBA like it's a class war instead of trying to turn it into a culture war. I don't want to start doing this tangent. Cut this out. Let's move on to the next thing. Never mind.
I control F'd physical in the CBA, and there's 78 results, so I'm going to have to dig through that later to see what the rules are.
Tune in next
disclosing
week.
Physical information.
I have the utmost confidence, Nick, that if you were a football coach, you are punting on 4th and 1 every time.
Oh my God, no.
You love to punt in the middle of a bit, so I'm just feeling
I'm not doing a bit. When I say that the NBA, like people's issues with it, should I think player empowerment is fucked up, and I don't think that we as fans should be like rooting for the players to have us. I think this shit is like a class war because the average NBA player is closer to the owners that actually like pay their contracts than they are to the average Joe who watches the games, and so I don't like that we fucking get on our knees and try to service these players and try to like, I don't know. It just bothers me. It bothers me.
It's not about the money. It's about the dynamic of the relationship.
Why is it not about the money in the NBA, but then everything else about our culture is about the money?
Well, look, if you were paying me $50 million, you can be a shitty boss. That pacifies the problem there. But like, at the end of the day, these guys still have bosses. And at the end of the day, the people who are paying them are billionaires, so they're much bigger fish. But they also are at an amount of money that players make where I'm just like, yeah, I'm not sitting here getting all high and mighty about workers' rights for these guys. I usually try to bring this stuff up just as an avenue to get people to talk about it for things outside of sports.
We'll revisit this next week. I'll come back with more because this is just kind of coming to me in real time, so I don't want to just say a bunch of shit that I don't mean. We'll revisit this.
I have gotten to a point where the amount of money that players are making, I'm like, all right, guys.
Right. So that's why I'm like,
enough.
I don't give a fuck about like what happened. Like, oh, I can't do this thing or I can't do that thing. I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
I think
Okay.
once the first $500 million contract gets signed, that's where I'm like, okay, we're done with the player empowerment thing. They've got the empowerment.
Well, if I pointed you in the direction of Major League Baseball, where a certain Japanese character is getting paid. He's not getting paid yet $700 million. In like 30 fucking years, he'll get paid $680 million. What about that? You think although with baseball players, it is a little bit different because the rosters are so deep. And so the average player is not making, I don't even think, $100
That's the
million.
other thing is like the lower and middle class of the NBA, if you are a 12th man today, you make more money than a star in the 80s did.
Yeah.
Even proportionate to inflation, because NBA contracts have well outpaced inflation.
Yeah, which is kind of what I think when the NBA Cup was going on, we were talking about like it's cool that the players found motivation in wanting to win so that they could get the guys at the end of the bench paid a lump sum of money that they otherwise may never get in their NBA careers.
Right.
So to your point, I agree with that for sure. But I would still say on aggregate, the average salary is probably what, $10 million?
Yeah, that sounds
The
about
average
right.
in the NBA, 10 million? So fuck them. I don't care.
Well, yeah, I think like the max amount of cap space is like 150 to 180 something, and then there's 15 roster spots, so divide that. Makes sense.
I'm going to take a back seat for the next 5 minutes. I'm going to put myself on timeout.
Okay.
I do think there's something to be said on that topic of just like some level of like working class solidarity like across the whole board of like quote unquote working class people. And I understand that like pro athletes being considered quote unquote working class because they make so much money seems a bit absurd. But I do think it's part of something Jacob said earlier about like the sort of structure between the team owner and the profession of the job they do, how much they make from it. It's like part of the reason they are paid so handsomely is because the nature of how their work is at the absolute foundation of the entire industry is put on display for everyone, and everyone understands that if there was no basketball players, there would be no basketball game. And so there is a pretty fair exchange compared to the rest of the working class between pro athletes and the owning class, right? But that doesn't mean that the owning class isn't still constantly making moves in their own interests and against like the rationale of like what the players would have, like trading away Luka Doncic, to save $117 million and, maybe open the door to move your Mavericks to Vegas so you can have a casino out front of the United Center or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of dynamics to observe, but I do think that the whole player empowerment era is basically over with the current collective bargaining agreement, and that the next move in the progress in those terms would probably be getting the G League players and the more developmental bottom end of the league taken care of, similar to the last baseball collective bargaining renegotiation.
I feel like the NBA players union is the most effective union in the entire country.
No. It's definitely the baseball players.
Okay.
They've been the face of that for decades. That's why they don't have a salary cap. And the next thing that they really need to implement is a salary floor, because guys like the Oakland A's just like don't hire anyone at a above market rate.
I don't know. I was gonna say something and I lost it. What's our next topic, Rudy?
I was reading through the CBA, so I have nothing to add.
Find anything new?
I joined that conversation late. I was trying to find out HIPAA information as it relates to physicals in the NBA.
Yeah, someone in the comments section, let us know how HIPAA and NBA injuries intersect, please. Thank you.
We just have an audience of doctors.
My theory is that it would kind of become a he said, she said, because the Lakers said that Mark Williams failed his physical, but I don't think they'd be allowed to say why he failed his physical. Because he's the team that you are under contract for. My understanding is that team, you are required to disclose injury information via that team if you're under contract for them. But since the Lakers failed his physical, he is not under contract for them, so they cannot disclose why he failed his physical. Only the Hornets could do that. The Hornets obviously wouldn't be doing that. Therefore, the agent is able to say, well, he didn't actually fail his physical, because the Hornets aren't going to refute that and try to disclose why he would fail his physical, and the Lakers are legally not allowed to say why he failed his physical. But I could be wrong on that. I only read like 4 or 5 pages from the CBA.
More than any of us read, so I trust your opinion, even if it's not with a degree of certainty.
That's more than I've read ever. What am I going to read I'm not wearing glasses right now.
I got really mad when they made the new CBA because I was really well versed in the old CBA, and I'm not reading it again. I read it, not all of it, but I read probably 50 to 60% of the old one.
So if the Lakers probably don't regret the cancellation of the Mark Williams for Connect 4 trade, is it possible that they do regret the Luka Doncic trade? We've seen some people saying that. We touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the show. Luka doesn't play defense. Let
me know when we're done with reactionary horseshit.
Yeah, I mean, outside of reactionary horseshit, honestly, it's just the All-Star Game grievances that we need to clear the air about more than anything. We've all had our own individual content talking about why the All-Star Game kind of stank this year. But we haven't had any collective content about it, so does anyone want to get their stuff off their chest first? Alex, you made a whole video about it, I think ahead of Nick and Jacob, if I'm not mistaken. The timeline is very close regardless, but
Alex, you had some numbers that I really want you to reiterate.
Oh, yeah, they're bookmarked on Twitter. So in the 3-hour time slot, there are 180 minutes available in that span of time for ideally basketball-related things.
That's so true.
Over the course of that 3-hour time span, 42 total minutes of basketball was played. In my opinion, that sucks. The fact that less than less than 1/4 of 180 minutes, less than 1/4 of that was spent viewing basketball be played. And that factors in dead balls too. If you take out the dead ball time, it's like 30 minutes. Imagine watching 180 minutes of a show or of something on TV, and only 32 minutes of that is the thing that you actually tuned in to watch. That is so mind-blowingly insane to me that somebody, whether it's the NBA, whether it's TNT, whoever it is, somebody in the NBA league office or somebody at TNT is like, what if we didn't show that much basketball? Is this a good idea? Let's think about that.
It would maybe be one thing if the show was good. If everything else, it was at least a baseline level of entertaining. Like, are we still doing the Kevin Hart thing in 2025? Who fucking wants to hear Kevin Hart in 2025? What are you throwing tomatoes at? That man is a walking advertisement. He is more PR trained than LeBron James, honestly.
Well, I'll answer your question, Jacob, before you kick the can down the road too much further. Here's a tweet from Wilco MCV on Twitter. Some of what people seemingly hated the most is also what's getting the NBA the most views. Shaq and Kevin. This is TikTok views. A clip of Shaq and Kevin Hart's height difference, 6.7 million views. Kevin Hart and Shaq making jokes with each other, 2.6 million views. Kevin Hart's intro, 1.1 million views. A clip of Victor Wembanyama playing hard and dunking had less than 55,000 views at the time of this tweet. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts.
That's great, but like, I could try and make Mr. Beast content and get more views on it, but I'm not a Mr. Beast channel. I'm not. Why? What is the? Yes, they get these numbers on this shit that isn't the product they're selling. But why are you like? Here's this other stuff.
You are not.
It's jingling keys.
You don't make that type of content. So why would you make that type of content? Is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Why is the NBA trotting out Mr. Beast and Kevin Hart and putting the inside the NBA crew in fishing clothes?
It's like views are views.
It's so stupid. And honestly, man, like, I'm ready for NBC to be the adult in the room when it comes to NBA coverage and just be like, I don't know what ESPN and TNT were doing, but yeah, we just cover the sport.
I'm consistently quantifying whenever I talk about TNT where I'm just like, I don't think they're most of the problem. Man, I'm starting to get to their most of the problem with the negativity issue with NBA coverage in general. The lack of understanding of the game, because when you listen to an NFL broadcast, if you don't know anything about football, if you listen to them, you can learn something. No one's ever learned anything, really, listening to the TNT crew. Did you guys... That video of Shaq and Kevin Hart, I had never considered that there would be a height difference between those two. It's the funniest, most revolutionary shit I've ever seen.
Nick, did you if you were holding your hand up at the first mention of Kevin Hart, I feel like you had something specific that you wanted to bring up about the everyone's favorite little guy.
No, I think he's funny. I guess when I said I like to see him, I don't mean in the spot that he was in. I agree that he should have had nothing to do with his fucking game. When they included him in the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine dunk contest, he was on the broadcast panel for the one that we all are thinking about, the greatest dunk contest of our lives. I think he's brilliant in that spot. I think he's great when he's like emceeing a roast, like he did with Tom Brady, like he did with the Justin Bieber roast, like shit like that. I like Kevin Hart when he's in the right place. I don't have a problem with him there, but I agree with you again that he had nothing. He should have. Here's my question about Mr. Beast. Imagine being a beneficiary of his, and he gets, I don't know, his head blown off in like some wacky stunt. And what do you think his life insurance policy is?
That was so left field. Dog.
Was it? I thought we were all thinking. I'm sorry. I thought we were all thinking the same thing. I don't know.
How would we all be thinking that?
I thought we were all I thought we were all thinking it, so I just wanted to say it out loud. But I don't know.
Get me on the Mr. Beast beneficiary list. That man's life insurance policy has got to have more money than God.
I love how he pretends like he's like not mega rich. Like he's like, I just put all the money back into my. No, you don't. No, he might put a higher portion of it than the average YouTuber does. He clearly invests a shitload in his videos, but the way he acts like he's like, I'm only really like barely a millionaire. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, if we don't consider his business a liquid asset, quote unquote, because it's not, it's a business, then like, yeah, he probably is only barely a millionaire, but he could sell his channel for billions of dollars to anybody.
He's
today.
already said before that someone offered him $1 billion to just own the channel. I guarantee you that man has tens of millions of dollars that are his personal money at the bare minimum. That's
because
one of the most.
Crypto.
It's one of the most egregious fucking lies that people still let him get away with, and it bothers the hell out of me. He's the Antichrist. He's indicative of everything wrong with American culture, straight up.
You can see it in his eyes.
I think it transcends American culture. I think you could broaden the horizon on that and just say.
Well, the thing is, American culture is the dominant one. So, just worldwide, that ends up being mostly
true. Is Jacob saying American supremacy? That's what I'm hearing.
What do you want?
America
Canada
does
to be the
have
51st state?
America does have supremacy. I wish it didn't. Whoever has the most bombs wins.
On that. You know what I did the other day? I took
go back and forth on the American empire.
Yeah. Because I took the political compass test because I haven't taken it in a while, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like I've been radicalized in the last few years since I would have taken it last, and I'm just curious to see like if the political compass test would reflect that. And interesting enough, it did. But one question that I had a lot of trouble with, it was something along the lines of like, I believe that my country is the best and that it should stay that way. And I was like, well, best is super subjective, and I don't really know what it means by that. But I was like, because I agree with you, Jacob, that in terms of culture, pop culture, like America is the dominant force in that conversation. And I was like, do I want it to stay that way? I was like, what does that say if you say yes to that? Because it's just too broad of a question.
Well, I don't mind the cultural element of it. The reason America has the most domineering cultural export is because America is the most domineering country, period. They have the bombs, they have the money, they lead all of the UN shit. Like, everything is so controlled by America across the world that it makes sense that the culture aspect of it still transcends. But, I'm not mad that, American movies are the most popular. I'm fine with that. I don't want to read subtitles.
Well, but then there was another one that was like
anime. Come on, have some respect.
I watch anime dubbed because I don't give a fuck. 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 This to me, this is the same thing as bone-in chicken. Oh, look at you! You read captions.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's totally not the same because bone-in chicken is you're getting extra work for in theory it's the same chicken. It tastes the same. It is not the same when you're talking about dubbed versus subbed because when you're watching when you're watching sub, you're hearing the original Japanese voice actors in their inflections and how they acted that scene in the studio. When you're listening to the dubbed version, you're not getting the same. You're getting the American interpretation of what the voice actors were doing in a translated version. It is not the same thing.
I fully respect your take here, but I have watched 2 animes and both of them had good dubs.
Which ones were they?
Attack on Titan. And I am watching Kill la Kill right now, which is a big upgrade or downgrade.
That show about comedians coming out and they all do stand up for 5 minutes and then they do Donald Trump versus Joe Biden down in Texas?
No.
Oh, that's Kill Tony. I'm thinking of Kill Tony. I thought you said Kill Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. You watch the dubbed version of Kill Tony.
My favorite anime is Kill Tony.
I can't understand Texans without subtitles.
Not to back, not to mention reading. As strange as it sounds, it's an act of creation. It's it gets you to participate in the media
tedious.
you're consuming, and that accents the intake of the vocal performance that you can't literally interpret because you have to do the act of creation, synthesizing with like what you're hearing tonally, and it makes like a super vivid experience that's like way easier to get attached to because you're partially creating it.
Well, and they also have to. It's animated to the Japanese voiceover, and so even when it's translated into English, they have to adjust the lines to accommodate for how much time was spent by the Japanese voice actor on that particular line. So even if in the dubbed version it takes like 3 seconds to say something, the American translation may need 5 or 6 seconds, but they don't adjust the animation for that. They have to abridge whatever is said into a 3-second version so that it fits into the animation. So you're missing out on what is like a lot of content when you watch the subbed version. I'm very passionate about this.
I consume content in a very lazy manner, and it's either I listen to it dubbed or I don't watch it. That's just the way that it is. So,
did you see All Quiet on the Western Front? Did you ever watch that?
I hate war movies.
Did you watch Parasite?
Yes.
Is there a dubbed version of Parasite?
I don't think so. That'd be crazy.
Okay.
No, I listen to Parasite.
There is
with
a dubbed
captions.
version of Train to Busan. It's a zombie movie. You like zombie movies?
I've seen Train to Busan.
Did you watch the dubbed version of that?
No, maybe maybe I'm just treating it differently because it's live action. I don't know.
Oh, okay. We haven't circled back to this
Jacob,
in a while.
you're a closet animation disrespecter. After all
That
these
is
years.
not true. I just mostly watch American animation because I'm a lazy American.
This is a basketball podcast.
It is, but who gives a shit?
Is it? Is it?
What were you going to say, Nick?
It wasn't about basketball.
Well, I want to know.
I know.
We're off the rails at this point. Let's hear it.
I don't remember.
Fuck.
That breaks my heart. Anytime Nick has something to say and then he forgets it, my heart breaks a little inside because I know it would have been so good.
Nick, have you ever considered the possibility that you might have ADHD? Because you're the only person I have ever met who just forgets what they were about to say. I'm the only one, and then another ADHD person I know is like that.
I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm kidding. When I speak, I don't listen to myself. When I think, I don't listen to myself. So a lot of the times when, like, if you rewind the show 20 minutes ago when I spent 5 minutes hitting the side of the backboard, I wasn't fucking saying anything, right? It's because I'm not thinking about what I'm saying when it's coming out. It's just coming out. I think the same way, too. So when I forget about something, it's because I don't even know what I was thinking about in the first place.
That only happens when I'm stoned. Otherwise, I think about every word I'm going to say right before it.
Do you guys have like an inner like a voice in your head? Like your own voice? Do you hear your own voice in your head?
I don't believe people when they say they don't. Because to me, it's like at that point, you are like a foreign... You are a different species if you don't have a voice telling you things in your head.
I wonder if they don't realize it.
To me,
Like, they
that's
think
such
that they
a
don't.
human... That's such an aspect of the human experience that if you don't have that...
Well, to me,
I
that
feel
is
like
like
you're
consciousnness, like being able to like talk to yourself.
It explains the amount of airheads that exist because they literally don't have thoughts up there.
I remembered what it was.
Let's
Okay.
hear it, by all means.
We haven't brought this up to Jacob in a while, Rudy. For people who have been listening to the Shootaround for this is seasoned veterans of the Shootaround. Nice little callback. We've given Jacob plenty of time. Jacob, your top 5 imagines.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's finally time. If
Top
not now,
5
then next week.
imagines?
For
You
sure.
don't even remember this bit?
I do vaguely,
We were
but can
talking
you
about- I don't
re-describe
remember-
imagines?
We're
It
like,
was
imagine
like-
5 things, and you're like, that's impossible.
Imagine dragons.
No, I think that I don't remember how this came up, but it was something in the vein of like not saying that you weren't creative, but we were accusing you of something, and we were like, what are 5 things that you've come up with that you thought? And you said
I
like
think you
zombies.
accuse me of having no whimsy.
Yeah.
No, I don't use that word. I would not
that
use
was
that
me.
word.
That was probably me.
I see.
So like 5 things off the top of your head that you're like, here's an idea, here's a concept. It can't be about it.
That's
it
a
can't be about
crazy
basketball.
question to ask someone.
Okay, I can
Just
give you
imagine something. Like
Just
what?
imagine something.
There's so much fucking pressure.
Give me a game show idea, reality TV show idea. Think about it, just off the top of your
It
head.
can be bad. Like it doesn't have to be good.
doesn't have to be
Just
good.
use your imagination. Prove that you have an imagination, Jacob.
Come on, Jacob.
A reality TV show about the numbers 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, and what do they do?
You know,
Is this like a workplace thing? Like, what are they doing?
that's
Hey,
a
I know
great
what happened
question.
in a show about 7, 8, 9.
It's a murder mystery.
Narrated by
go.
Six.
There's not much of a mystery.
Now, I don't want to step on your toes here. We did just give you a lot of help to come up with this idea in the first
Fuck
place.
off, man. There's no way you're doing
no
this to
one's
me
saying
again.
Community
Fly solo.
works.
3, 2, 1, go.
I take a while to think about things.
It doesn't have to be good. Just anything.
Just anything.
Luggage made out of hot dogs. Like, come on, something.
Alex. It's a good one, but let him think.
Here's my problem. I care too much about having good ideas that I can't just say horse shit out loud.
No, that's a bad cop out. Boo, boo.
It is. It's not a cop out. It's just fundamentally a problem with myself. A purse made out of chili dogs.
Whoa. Okay, we got some onions on there.
Very adjacent to luggage made out of hot dogs.
See, that's
I'm
what
still
I
not
said, Alex.
convinced.
I said
I made
don't
it
think he's got
feminist.
imagination. What the fuck did you just say?
I made it feminist. It's a purse now.
Super glue toothpaste.
That seems a little reverse progressive from Jacob to say that only women. I wear tote bags. That's effectively
Women be
the same thing.
shopping.
They do be shopping, and they be
Women
doing
be
a lot of
shopping and
this.
have purses. Women be
What?
shopping and need super glue
be
toothpaste because they be
I
talking.
have like
They do.
10 tote bags. That's effectively the same thing as a purse.
I
Love a
carry a
good tote
crossbody on me 24/7.
There you
I'm
go.
surprised
You
I'm not
know,
wearing it right now.
that's the little dash of gay in you.
Facts.
I like a fanny pack, but I think that's just more like widespread, frowned upon, regardless of gender.
I went to a Clipper game once, and like the item that you got for being one of the first, however many people in the arena was a Clippers fanny pack, and I rocked the shit out of it for like 2 weeks. And I had somebody that I worked with that was a diehard Clippers fan, and they wanted it so bad. I didn't give a shit about it, but I didn't want them to have it, so I didn't let them have it. I wasn't gonna use it.
and you're like,
No, I wore it like for like a week and was like, this is badass, and then was like, I don't need this, and I never wore it. And he's like, well, if you're not gonna use it, can I have it? And I was like, well, no, because it's mine. Like, it's mine.
That's like such a
have-
conundrum when like you have something that you acknowledge to somebody that you don't want anymore, and they're like, well, can I have it? And you're like, well, actually, now that I think about it, I would like to hold on to this.
Yeah.
I feel like men wear fanny packs more than women.
Yeah. Well, unless you're a lesbian, yeah.
What's the difference?
I guess. You
Look,
mentioned-
I'm friends with some butch lesbians, and they're
Look
the
at
boys.
Mr. I have a black friend over
I was
here.
about to say I'm not
Fuck.
racist. My best
Yeah.
friend is black.
No, I'm telling you,
I
they're
know
just
a
like the
lesbian.
fellas. You know, they hammer things.
Jacob Stud Buckets over here. Studski Buckets?
They wake up and take the pants and shirt off of the floor from the other day and put it back on.
They put like I like to wear wife beaters all the time. They put a nice little wife beater on, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
like
I'm
the
done.
direction that most of this show has gone, by the way.
Yeah, this is wild. I have no idea where we're at anymore.
What are we even titling this fucking thing? Whatever. I don't
Yeah.
care.
The-
The people seem to like it when we go on these tangents. That's all the comments we get is they don't even want a basketball podcast.
That's what
so-
podcasting is really all about. It's just getting
Yeah.
people hooked into your ridiculous conversation for an hour.
Yeah. What
regardless
other
of the
topics do
topic.
we have? Let's
We've
run
really
through them.
covered all of our bases.
Well, then I got something. Fuck it.
Please.
Do you guys ever get, like in the past, have you ever gotten a comment or like a tweet or something that fucked with you so much that it changed how you do things? Do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Because it would only cut that deep if it's something that you either consciously or subconsciously subconsciously have also identified. So is there anything that comes to mind where you're like, somebody called me out for this thing and it's such a niche thing and you are always conscious of it?
Jacob and Rudy remember when my hair was long. Like, my hair used to be like down to here, and
It was not quite that long.
it was pretty long. You can find clips. Regardless, anyways, I'm living my truth, Jacob. Mind your business. So this was when I first started showing my face in videos, and I got a comment, and someone was like, "It's time to let the hair go, bro." I got my hair cut the next day.
The number one comment I got that sticks with me to this day is someone said, "You look like a boring person trying to dress like an interesting person." And I was that really hurt me because, frankly, that's how I feel constantly. Because I try to like experiment with the clothes that I wear, but at the end of the day, I look the way that I look. And if I wear some like a more feminine outfit, I'm like, you look like a fucking poser. You look like you look like a Republican trying to look like a gay man right now, and it's not fitting.
That's where the mustache is very versatile. I think.
No, a mustache can be very gay coded, like Freddie Mercury type shit.
No, but it's also like I put on a camo hat, and people kind of, you know what I mean.
Immediately,
it's a very versatile facial accessory. I don't know if you guys, if I've ever told you guys about this. When I was in high school, I used to wear women's clothes all the time, like constantly. I would just wear like kimonos and shit. Like I would go to Salvation Army, and I would like, I would skip out on the men's section, and I would just like go to because women just have better clothes. I just like the shape of them better. I like the patterns,
than the pockets.
I like the colors. Well, that's just pants at least. I wasn't wearing women's pants, right?
Yeah.
So like, I would go to school, and I grew up in like a very conservative town. I wouldn't call it a city. My graduating class was probably like 1,500 to probably about 1,500 kids. So like but our campus was pretty big. There were a lot of kids that were there, and Jesus, man, that was a rough time. I used to wear. Do you guys remember? We used to call them flow bands. They're just fucking headbands, is all that they were. But like, if you had long hair, you would just put on like a little,
Oh yeah. They're like thin, right?
You unlocked that memory I forgot about. Yeah.
Super thin. I would wear them all the time, but I wouldn't wear them to push my hair back. I would wear them on top of my hair as like the woman from the Breakfast Club who like gets yassified by the end of the movie, and she's wearing like a fucking, I don't know how to describe it, but you wear it on top of your hair, and I would wear that with like this just women's clothes, and I would just get murdered for it. But you know what I didn't do? I never stopped wearing women's clothes just because people told me to stop doing it.
I eventually just found that dressing like vaguely Italian, kind of like a mob boss.
I've always thought this about you, Jacob.
Even though
bro's so Italian for no reason.
I'm not Italian at all in my bloodline. Like, I'm 90% French and English, but like, I don't know, the Italians got some good fashion that suits me. It looks good on me, and it also isn't boring. Where otherwise, I feel like if I try to dress too flashy, I'm just like, shut up, idiot. That's not you.
Gotta be yourself, man.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know who I am. If I don't know myself, how can I be myself?
Man, yeah. I'm so disillusioned by identity, and like what it even means to exist inside of your own shell without emulating people who you wish that you could be like, whether it be physically or spiritually or with the way that you speak. And I have such a hard time not being influenced, again, by people who I wish I was more like them. And so then you lose your sense of identity because you're like, because that changes. I get hyper obsessed with somebody's personality for 2 weeks, and then I analyze their mannerisms or the way that they speak, and then I start to pick up on those things. And then 2 weeks after that, it's somebody else, and then the cycle just repeats. And then so I look back on certain points of my life, and again, whether it's this show or anything I've ever done in the past where I'm speaking into a microphone, I could tell you exactly who at that moment I was trying to be like. And then 2 weeks later, if I watched something after that, I could tell you exactly what I was doing differently. And I just wish that I could view myself through more of a lens of like, I don't know. I've just always struggled. I don't know if me telling you that as a 15-year-old I was dressing in women's clothes indicates that I had any issues with identity. But man, I have just always had problems with that.
Well, I think it's like, I think it's impossible to, like, anyone who says like they know themselves like 100%, I think they're lying, because I think it's impossible to strip everything back and like look at yourself and say, like, when you peel it all away, who is Nick, or who is Jacob, or who is Alex, or who is Rudy? Because we're shaped so much by our experiences that it's impossible to see, like, in a vacuum, who is Alex, like, at a very core level, because we're just so warped by everything around us that it's almost like, who's to say? You're shaped by your experiences. Obviously, some stuff is innate, some stuff is inalienable from who you are. But
I'm a big nurture guy over nature, for sure.
What's the Christopher Walken quote in Wedding Crashers? Nature versus nurture. Nature always wins. That's for the real Wedding Crashers heads out there. You're welcome.
My big thing is sometimes I wish that I could just take a break from being myself. It's just like you will always be trapped in the flesh prison of yourself, and that is inherently limiting in a way that is annoying to me. But also, suck it up, just be a guy.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's. Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead. No, I'm dumb. Go ahead.
It's just very simple. I think that's where it's just important to, like, the importance of positive self-talk and making sure that, like, you genuinely, like, even if you wonder who you are, you still need to love who you are, and you need to appreciate that at the end of the day.
I just think it makes me so much better as a speaker that I detest myself. I'm not even being funny. Like I think it makes it so much easier to try to be funny when you're able to do it at your own expense, and and everything you're saying is right. I'm just justifying it in my own way that makes me sleep better at night. But like, we talked about this off pod a couple of weeks ago. You talk about me spending 10 minutes hitting the side of the backboard. Nobody agreed with me on me in my defense of Stephen A. Smith. But like, what I told you guys was, when I was growing up, it was such a crucial part of my childhood and like my formative years in high school that, like, the reason that I get so amped up all the time, I know subconsciously, is because of him. And so I just view him in a light that is like, because what I saw was a man who was successful on television acting the way that he was acting. It's the same reason that I swear as much as I do, because that's all that I was obsessed with on the internet, was like people who talked horribly, and I saw how well it worked for them. And so then my little chimp brain was like, swear more, be loud, great success.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there.
But I mean, it's impossible. Like, this ties in with a really good book that I read called Steal Like an Artist. And if you're in any creative field, you need to read the book, because I think it's very important in terms of, like, learning certain things about, developing your own style and stuff like that. But like, we all grab elements from the things that we see and we tie it into our content. Like, my content, I drew inspiration from a bunch of different creators. Like, I'll be the first to admit, I drew inspiration when I was starting out from Rusty Buckets, from KOT4Q, from Thinking Basketball, all these different creators. Like, I pulled different elements, and like, if you start just stripped down to zero, it's like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, everything is borrowed from something. And I think if you like try to chase, like, what is Alex or what is Nick at its very core, like, it's impossible. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure that out.
I also think you become alien to the people around you if you're so wholly unique that you can't even tangibly tie it to other people influencing you. You'd just be like a freak at that point.
I also think it's impossible.
Right.
Like, I just don't think you can do it.
It's like were you just raised in a room eating saltine crackers, staring at a wall
Jacob,
for
when
20 years?
when you started making videos, who were you emulating?
A funky diabetic. He was doing my league or my GM at the time content, and that's what I started with. It's all deleted now, but I did that for a long time, and then he started doing videos that were just regular NBA commentary, and I was like, oh well, I'll do that. And I did one, and that video got like 30K in a week. So I was like, fuck this my GM shit, this is what I'm doing. But I don't know, I do think I've done a decent job of making my voice unique enough, but it took some time. Also, straight up, dude, first 3-4 years of my content career, I had no fucking business talking about basketball. I was too new to it, but I didn't have anything else going on. I felt it was something I could yap about for a while, which clearly I could. But like, it took me a while to even develop any level of confidence in my own basketball takes because I had been watching basketball for like 4 years when I started that channel. I've now done more years as an NBA YouTuber than I did as an NBA fan previous to it being a YouTuber.
Nick, you asking Jacob who he was influenced by, and then Nick, you also saying that you could go back to any of your videos and you could watch it and you could say exactly who you were influenced by at that time based on how you were talking or your style or whatever. I think from your perspective, yes, because you're so close to it, you're able to look at that and be like, well, I was just copying this guy. But like, when I watch the Coping Hour and when I watch like Rusty Buckets, regardless of who you're like drawing inspiration from, when I watch the Coping Hour, I'm watching Nick. Like, I don't, it's impossible for me to be like, oh, he's copying this guy. Like, because even though you are drawing stuff from other people, it's like, well, you're still Nick. Like, your personality is on that regardless of your influences. Jacob, your personality is on that regardless of the fact that you were kind of doing what a funky diabetic was doing. It's like, yes, just because you draw inspiration from other people doesn't mean like you don't know who you are or that your personality doesn't show through and resonate and show up through the screen. I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but it's just my opinion.
I do want to say, Nick, something you said really resonates with me where it's like deeply relatable, like at a whatever school of psychology type beat level, you know? But you talked about sort of viewing your personality, your character as like a sacred thing which needs to be like protected from influence in a way, right? I certainly saw like my own sense of self that way for the vast majority of my life until one day I sort of realized that like I trust my own integrity enough to not flagrantly try to rip someone else's personality off and spin it off as my own, you know? But simultaneously, because of that, I have like the courage and fortunately sometimes I wish it was more though, like fearlessness to be inspired and to do the creative things that we do in our own way, because that's just going to be the natural byproduct of doing it at all, because our own individualness of it all is like immutable. That's just, you can't get around it. It's going to happen no matter what. So no matter how inspired you are, unless you're literally doing like a sinister deed of trying to rip someone off, no matter how parallel your own creation might be to your own inspiration, with more exercise in that creativeness, you'll get stronger and form more of your identity. It's like the inspiration is just like the block of marble, and the doing the creativeness is like the chipping away into whatever your final art form looks like, you know? And like you only get better at that with more practice. So sort of, you know, I feel like it's a really good way to feel a strong sense of insecurity, to try to protect your own uniqueness as if it was like a sacred sense of innocence, which is actually counterproductive to being creative, because being creative demands a certain fearlessness of getting over the hump of converting an idea into an impulse, of actually making the thing that you're thinking of and tearing down that wall without being afraid means accepting that insecurity as part of your own identity that you can be confident and proud about and reflect in your own art, I feel like there's a certain dynamic to what you're saying, which is like extremely relatable to me personally, and I'm just trying to share with you sort of my own personal antidote of an anecdote.
Yeah,
the actual you go ahead.
I think not to I don't like mentioning my own show on here, but I think we're kind of just I genuinely feel, I know this conversation will exist in perpetuity on the internet, but just to tell you fellas, I sort of feel like this is one of those conversations that we would have sort of off the show, so I will just treat it as if it's one of those and speak freely about the shit that I do. I think that I'm lucky that the coping hour, I've sort of leveraged it into a position where, like, to your point about almost adopting and accepting that insecurity and letting that be the show. So the day that we're all taping this, I taped an episode of the coping hour just a few hours ago, and I published it immediately. And the back end of that episode is just like me self-destructing, kind of like I have in this episode. It's just been one of those days. I'm in one of those stretches right now where it's just something. And so it's that juxtaposition of owning those insecurities and just letting it sort of come out on tape. And even though I get upset when the show goes in that direction, I also recognize that that's why some people listen, is because it's not about the subject. It's not about the takes. Sometimes it's just about, like, listening to somebody who is just some guy. And I think that is, we spent some time talking about Mr. Beast. And I think one of the problems with him is that in the laundry list of problems, this is somewhere near the bottom, but when you are, you pedestal yourself as like this untouchable godlike figure, I think a problem in our culture is this celebrity. This isn't a hot take, but this digitalization of celebrity and viewing people a certain way through the internet, where it's just not the way that they are. So, like, all four of us are very much just some guy who have an internet connection and have microphones, and we do this thing, and that is the end of it. And I think that's always just what I try to lean on, even if it is rooted in insecurity, because in the past I had some success as a content creator, and then I just kind of assholed my way out of it. And I look back on a lot of conversations that I had with people, both internally and externally, where I wish that I wasn't so corrupted by the success that I was having and saying the things that I did say to some people. And I now try to just be as grounded of a person as I can, but I also don't know how to identify what the things that, and I think all of you in some way will relate to this. I struggle to identify sometimes the things that I actually find redeemable about myself and the things that I am actually good at. Like Rudy, I'm sure you've witnessed this from Jacob. Jacob, I'm sure this has happened to you. And Alex, I'm sure this has happened to you. Like, you're like halfway through a video, or, you at home listening to this, you're halfway through a shift or like doing whatever the fuck it is that you do. And you're like, why am I doing, like, I suck at this. Like, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, I am not good at this thing. And then you sort of self-destruct and go down this path of, like, I'm talking a lot here, man, but
every day.
My big thing, I think the worst thing a person can do is buy their own hype, because you start to slip when you do that. And I definitely did the exact same thing. And also just the starting this at the age 16 of it all, just feeling like I just kind of fell into it, and now I'm about to be 25, and I'm just like, how am I even here? I do that constantly.
Yeah, you and I had a little bit of a back and forth because of something that I mentioned on the show, where I was feeling some type of way because I felt that the three of you were confident in your lanes, and that I felt that you guys had things figured out, and you assured me that was not the case with you, Jacob.
Yeah.
It's not the case for me either, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. If I may, here at the 77-minute mark, speaking about being confident in what we do, staying in our lanes and stuff, allow me to formally announce that the next podcast will be our last on an indefinite hiatus. It's not necessarily the end of the shoot around forever, but we will be treating it with some sanctity and pretending as if the show is dying, but it will potentially come back to life at the start of next season. We're just going to reconvene after 6 months and decide if this is something that we can manage to bear on our plates, because to be perfectly transparent, all of us need to lock in our own respective ways, and TSA just takes up a little bit too much of our time, just like at the airport. So this has been a beautiful episode.
That was really good
so far. Thank you. Nick, we all love you. I love the other two of you as well, but want to tell Nick especially.
The great Nick, I love you. The excellent Alex, I love you. And Jacob's here.
I love all three of you equally.
Yeah.
I don't. It's different.
Power rank them.
Just tune in next week for our host.
You can't imagine
tier
things, but
list.
you can power rank your friends for real.
I sure fucking can. You want to end it? Alex and Nick, you're pretty much tied. Rudy kind of wins by default.
If I got to be last, that's fine.
Well,
sounds like you guys are tied
I
for
wish
last.
that I talked to you guys just for the sake of it more often than I do, but that's my own thing with communication.
You texted me the other day.
I'm so bad at maintaining relationships with people. It's actively one of my worst problems. So, but I love talking to you guys. That's why hearing the hiatus was happening made me sad, because this is my best avenue to talking to you guys.
We got a Discord server.
We do. We do. Yeah.
Any final thoughts before I click end recording, fellas?
I feel like this is such a sad ending, but
Hey, we'll make it fun next week.
I thought we had a good chat.
Tune in next week for maybe the last shoot around.